Hey guys, I am John Carrick, and today we are looking at 100 Bullets number 17. This is an awesome comic. Okay, let me talk a little bit about what my focus is on this channel. I'm all about good writing. The story is what matters to me. I don't care how well crafted the word balloons are in the upper corner of the panels. There aren't even any panels on this page. I don't care whether or not, I do care whether or not the flow of the story is smooth. I absolutely care about that. But I'm not going to spurg out on art details like whether or not the background, whether or not this should be canted or not. You know, that's something I noticed a few weeks ago, and that's important. That's an important thing to talk about. But the overall story is what really counts. And man, is this one good. We've only had 2 issues with Lewis and Curtis Hughes. And this is their 3rd issue. I said the last one was indulgent, but the last one was an act 2 for a 3-issue story, for a 3-issue arc. And this is the 3rd issue. I know that Curtis must have been in this in some previous issues because there's some stuff I remember him doing that is... Maybe I'm just remembering this one. I'm not sure. Anyhow, let's go through this. So, Curtis does end up inviting Agent Graves into his apartment for a drink. And they're talking about what is going on with the Minutemen and what happened in the past. This is very... Here's something that Brian Azzarello does really well. The characters know what they're talking about, but we don't. He could be talking about fatherhood. He could be talking about working in the military. He could be talking about working in a, what do you call them? A institution, which is really what the CIA and the NSA and the Department of Defense, that's really what those are. And they're working for the trust. And Graves explains that the trust has fired him and he is taking his show on the road and going solo. And that if they fired him, that they're even that much more important. And Curtis is like, you're out of your mind. Agent Graves is, come on, you were one of my best operatives. You can't be serious. So, yeah, he gives Curtis a briefcase with a bunch of money. And Curtis, of course, is mad that Agent Graves tried to hire his son to kill him because you have a funny way of putting people together. But yeah, it's also a test, you know what I mean? So, test for everyone. And this is top shelf writing. Again, you don't know whether or not they're talking about fatherhood. You don't know whether they're talking about loyalty to a military unit. And it doesn't matter because it's all of those things at once. And that is solid subtext. That's great writing. That's just great writing. I can't remember the last time I saw that in a superhero conversation. And obviously characters like Batman and Superman have subtext going back decades, but their writing is always on the nose, isn't it? They always say exactly what they mean in a snarky, condescending way. And it's just not fun to listen to. This is way more engaging. This is Shakespeare. This is Shakespeare level writing. And that's why people still talk about this. And you know what you know why this didn't get a series? Because everyone at the WB fucking stole it. I'm sure so many variations of these scenes appeared in TV shows and comics over the last 25 years that if you're someone who's only familiar with modern comics and you go back and read this is going to feel like a foundational work. This is like me. I've read pretty much everything. I bought Clifton Fademan's 100 Greatest Books. Didn't buy it. It was gifted to me. Bought it. It was gifted to me. It's called the Greatest Reading List. And when I got it, I'd already read half the books in it. So, and Clifton Fademan is the guy who Cliff's Notes are named after. He's the guy. So, when I read the Iliad, and I read that more than once, and I've listened to it on audiobook, for me, that was a foundational work. Don Quixote. There's so much of Don Quixote in all of sword and sorcery, science fiction, fantasy. That book and the Iliad. See, Writing is one of the only mediums where the foundational works will never be bested. Never. There's no technology that can improve on the Iliad or Don Quixote. Cervantes, Homer is, the Iliad is the work of the entire Greek culture over 800 years, because that was an oral work for a long time before it was written, and it wasn't a novel that was printed, but it is the first epic story. You could say it's an epic poem, but it's really a novel. It has all the structure of a novel. Don Quixote's the same thing. It'll never be beaten. It's the most valuable first edition you can buy. You guys think, Amazing Fantasy 15 and Detective Comics 27, which I didn't even know was Batman's first appearance. Technically, I'm a fake comic book fan because I didn't give a shit. Spider-Man was foundational. Amazing Fantasy mattered. Detective Comics 27 was just a rich Dracula fighting crime. That's all it was. And Batman became what he was later. Batman has become what he was, what he is. God, he's kind of coming into his own in my generation, in my lifetime. So, Spider-Man was perfect from the outset. They're different characters. Superman and Captain America. That's like when, if you guys check out this interview with Chris Hemsworth and Chris Evans, and Chris Evans is leaning back in his chair, and Chris Hemsworth is leaning forward because he's got, he's doing 4 Thor movies. Chris Evans knows that Captain America, they're talking about the different characters and about how Thor's nuanced. His mom died. He's got all this family drama going on. And Chris Evans goes, Captain America is the least nuanced character ever. And they both crack up laughing, especially Chris Hemsworth, because Captain America is a flat character, especially in the Marvel movies. And that's why he's perfect. He's like Conan. He's flawless. You can't improve on him. Superman is the same way. And their struggle, Lois and Clark did the best Superman in that it was a story about Clark and about how he had to think because his powers were just a tool. And if he misused them, he could hurt everyone around him. And he had to solve all the problems in a way that saved everybody face. Just like Curtis was telling Lewis in the last issue, where if a guy underpays you, address it immediately and with respect. And in that way, you can both get past it without having to kill anybody. This is great writing. Taylor Sheridan is doing this on Tulsa King. Tulsa King is a little too cartoony, and so is Landman. I liked his earlier work better. Sicario and Wind River is more realistic, more Americana, more painted with real colors, while Landman and Tulsa King, those are cartoons. So, and this is, I wish 100 Bullets was a cartoon. I don't care about it being a TV show. Make this shit a cartoon. This is fucking awesome. Sorry, we should talk about what's going on here. So Graves tells him he's putting the band back together. He literally uses those words. Curtis gets a phone call. He doesn't say from who. Go meet somebody tonight at whatever time at the bar. And, go meet somebody. Go meet Nino. So Graves says, who is that? Don't worry about it. I got it. It's all under control. And he's still got this pile of money that he took from the drug dealer that he didn't take to Nino. His name is Nino Rigo. The brick-top sort of character with the Coke bottle glasses, the old Italian mobster. And here we have Curtis coming by to meet him. No, is this Curtis? Agent Graves, Shepard. Yeah, this is Curtis. This is exactly what Curtis told his son, Lewis, to do. Nino Rigo is extending Curtis the exact same opportunity. Curtis could have carried the money in that he got from the drug dealer, but he thought the cheesesteak guy was just doing it on his own, and he didn't realize the cheesesteak guy is working for Nino, that Nino knew exactly what he was giving him that money for, and he expected, he's being cut in on the deal. And the only reason this works is because the audience is naive. In real life, Curtis would have taken that money directly to Nino. He wouldn't have held the position he does, being a 62-year-old man, or 42-year-old, however old he is, in his mid to late 50s. He wouldn't be holding the position he does and have the respect he does with Agent Graves, with Nino, with everyone in the city. That would be impossible if he was the sort of guy who would jump at this opportunity. He doesn't even need the money. He doesn't have, a sick wife. There's a really good movie with Vince Vaughn and Mel Gibson called Dragged Over Cement or Dragged Over Concrete. And there are a couple cops who are going to rob some drug dealers who are going to rob an armored car. So they found out about it, and there's a really good bit in that is similar to this, where Mel Gibson has a sick wife. She's got cerebral palsy or something, or some debilitating Parkinson's maybe. She's got some debilitating disease. She has to walk with a cane, and they're barely getting by. And that would have been, Curtis doesn't even have that. Curtis doesn't need this money for anything. If this book were not, this is the one part of the character that's forced. But it still works. You don't notice it if you're just a naive audience member. Again, you have to, as a writer, the most important thing is to know whom you're writing for. And Brian Azzarello really knows his audience. And so he has Curtis keep this money. He doesn't take it to Nino in this opportunity that's being handed to him, just like we saw in the last issue. And most readers wouldn't even put together that this scene is a mirror replica of him handing his son the $500 and telling him to count it. That's what this is. So that's why this is top shelf writing. Most readers, most wannabe writers wouldn't even learn this lesson. And I know they wouldn't because I've read their shit. They're not writing at this level. They're not writing at this level. Go watch Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. That is writing at this level. It's the same thing. Guy Ritchie didn't top that movie. Snatch didn't come close. Snatch is better because it has bigger stars. Benicio del Toro. It made Lenny Jones. Is that his name? I don't know. I'm not sure. The black guy who's really good in Walking Dead. He's a great actor. He's a great actor because he's really good at pretending to be a white man. He's really good at speaking crisp, clean, clear English. It's not always that easy. Anyhow, this is Louis back at home with his cousin Miguel and his girlfriend, and he's like, "What is up with you? What is going on?" They're having beers. And why are you up here? You got chased out of Miami? He's like, "I'm on vacation." Dude, Miami is a vacation every day. And this is something else I want to say. I live in Southern California on purpose because my life, every day is a holiday and every meal is a feast. I've started meditating this past couple weeks, knowing that I have a detached retina in my right eye and I've let it go way too long and surgery may not be able to fix it. So I am very terrified. My everyday life is, this is a struggle. I have to make an appointment this weekend, blah, blah, blah. But when I sit and I think, when I first wake up and I take 20 minutes to just settle myself for the day, I really have to thank God for every breath. Every breath. Every day is a holiday and every meal is a feast. Whatever time your birthday is, the day and the month should be the hour and minute of your happy birthday minute. And every time you see the clock set at that, you should take a moment and, take a good deep breath and enjoy life. Get to know yourself. You have to know yourself. That's why, look, I have these 9 ideals for writing comics, for writing in general. I call them the Alpha Channel ideas. And the first one is, when you sit down to write, you have to write there with a clear conscience. Writing is the one art form. It's not the highest art form. I place music above it and I place illustration above it. Those are both purer forms of art. But neither of those involve language. And so neither of those involve honesty. It's either good or it's bad. It's very easy to evaluate good music from bad music. And it's by the skill of the musician and the love that the musician pours into the work. The same thing goes for illustration, painting, any kind of representative art, sculpture, objective art, even commercial art. You know, there's love put into commercial, and I mean advertising campaigns. There's an art form there. There's an art form to the trailers for movies. Some of it borders on deception, and that's where writing is unique. Writing does not, now look, the new TV show with Michael Fassbender, they talk about, it's called The Agency, and they say that lying is the highest form of cognitive function of mankind. That's a show made by Jews. Jews have like 342 words for ways to lie to people. They see that as an art form because they are an insular group against the rest of the world. And when you're surrounded, you can fire in all directions. And that's what they do. White people need that sort of unity. We are surrounded as individuals. I'm strong because I've been wearing these handicap chains all my life. A white man's the bad man, the bad man, the bad man. And worse, you're a shitty white guy because you're incompetent, you're incompetent, you're incompetent. So I've had to rise above that. I've seen those as challenges to overcome. And I've gotten to know myself, so I know my audience. Writing is the most rewarding activity I've ever invested any energy in. It's fun to play the guitar. I can play little bits of little songs. I love drawing. I love it so much. But writing, the chapter I wrote last night could use some adjustments, and the next chapter is going to be a twist on that that's going to be even better. But writing is the most rewarding. It's the most rewarding art I've ever consumed. And it's the most rewarding art you've ever consumed too, if you're honest with yourself. You have some set of shows you're addicted to, some movies you love. All of those were written by an author. Yes, we all love good music, and yes, we all respect musicians, but you are addicted to fiction and you know it. It's the highest art form. Go read the Iliad, go read Don Quixote and tell me I'm wrong. Now, back to our story. So, Miguel's girlfriend comes in and says, I want to go eat. I want to go somewhere nice. Filet mignon. She just says filet. And that was what I'd forgotten way back. Filet mignon is the one that I forgot. That big heart-sized fist of French steak. I had a steak sandwich yesterday. Grilled it in butter. Oh my God, it's so good. And here we continue, and of course Miguel says I'm buying. Miguel clearly has a whole bunch of money, and he's not staying in a hotel, he's staying at his cousin's house. So who did he rob in Miami? I guess we find out on the next issue. So here Curtis calls Lewis and tells him to meet him later at 1:30 at a certain bar, that he wants to talk to him, he's got something for him, and Lewis is like, okay, all right, I can do that. And excuse me. So then we get, now Curtis has gone to the bar. I think her name is Margaret's bar, where he has to burn it down because she's late on her payments to Nino Rigo. And they have a conversation about it. He says, I've got 3 questions for you. Can you pay it tonight? And I don't remember what the second one was, but the third one was, is this bar worth your life? Because they're going to burn it for the insurance money. And he says, are you aware that you're lucky that you've got an easy way out? And then do you want to die for it? I think that's the second one. I'm not sure. Anyhow, I think Curtis knows that Nino knows that he ripped him off. And he still hasn't given the money back. The money's just sitting in his shitty apartment. And he goes, now I don't know, I don't think this is the first issue with Curtis, because I swear to God, I saw him do this bit with the ice underneath the hot water heater. And that's what he does here. He goes in and snuffs out the pilot light under the hot water heater, and he puts a thing of ice. And the pilot light area, even on your stove, is hot. And if it's got an automatic ignition, and then you turn on the gas to the rest of the place, and fill the place with gas, then that automatic igniter is going to go off as soon as that ice melts and prevents it as soon as it dries. And it's going to dry pretty quickly because it's still hot. It's hot all the time. And so this is him putting the ice down there under the igniter, and it's going to melt, and then the gas He's going to slowly fill the kitchen and the restaurant with gas, and it's going to explode. And he's chased what's-her-name, Margaret, out. And she says she has to go back for some stuff she wants, and he says, you can't go back. Everything has to be in there. It has to look like you left any other night. You can't be taking pictures off the wall and shit. He doesn't say that, but essentially that's what it means. And then he comes back out, and Nino is there with his hot Asian ninja girl and his son. His son is the Chris Penn looking guy. And, he knows that he killed the Philly cheesesteak guy and that he took the drugs, or that he took the money, because the guy who took the drugs is there and has decided to join Nino's team and work for him. And so all of this is getting exposed and talked out. Meanwhile, Lewis goes to the bar where he's supposed to meet Curtis, and Curtis ain't there. And the bartender says, hey, I'm supposed to give you this. It's a baseball mitt. In the first issue, they had this big conversation about baseball, and then they went to see Nino, and he says, this kid don't even like baseball. That's un-American. And the old guys, the boomers, love baseball, but Gen X here, Lewis is into basketball, Michael Jordan, etc., etc. And so that was a big part of the first issue, the first comic that we had with them. And Lewis drives past Margaret in the back of Nino's car, and he knows something's up, and he goes to her bar where Curtis looks like he's been shot or stabbed and had his face beat to a pulp, and he's probably been there for a while. The ice has probably almost fully melted, and Lewis tries to come in the bar, and Curtis stops him and leans up against the door, and that's the last page. Kaboom. Kaboom. In Tulsa King, Tyson gave his dad a big truck, a big maroon truck that they've been driving around. It looks like Tony Soprano's truck in Sopranos. And it's Stallone, Dwight Manfredi, D. White Man Freddy. That's a great show. I just watched both seasons past few weeks. And so this kid Tyson gives his dad a truck, and then these other guys are out looking for Dwight, and they know that's his truck, and they put a bomb under it, and Tyson almost gets his dad killed. And that is just raise the stakes. And that's great writing. And it's not political. There's no racism. Dwight's a black guy working for an Italian guy. Look, on an individual level, I'm not racist until you say you're a white man. And then I know my skin's my jersey and I know what war we're fighting. If that's how you present, art is above politics. Art is above tribalism. Good and bad, family, tribe, county, country, religion is in there too. But if you don't do tribal, we can just be friends. Friends is above tribes. If you want to do racism, come get some. But you don't have to. It's not here. Graves and Curtis get along. Curtis recognizes what Graves represents. Curtis was in those institutions at some point. Now he's working for the mob. So that's just good writing. This is an interesting card. Yesterday, I'd held this up and then announced one that I already put in the stack. But this is the 5 of clubs. Yesterday's was the 4 of clubs. Yesterday's was the one about the young family that roughing it is too rough for them. They want to go back to the military, and the military's demanding people turn in everyone they know who's out roughing it. And so what do? This is even better. This is a great one. This is written by a based individual. And this is very biblical. This is a very biblical card. It's the end of the world. The banks are collapsing first, and you can't get any more money out of the ATMs. Cash is still valuable for a very short period of time, you suspect. And then it's going to be a barter type society. And you can't get to your money. You have money in the bank, but you also have some friends and relatives who owe you, who have substantial debts to you. How do you collect on that? And that, considering the issue we just read, is pretty Pretty interesting. I don't know if you guys remember the biblical parable about the man. This is a New Testament parable, a Jesus parable, about the man who owed his landowner, his landlord, the king of his kingdom, a substantial debt. And when he was called before the court, he pled on the king's mercy, and the king granted him mercy. And he begged and pleaded for it. And then he went out and encountered another man who had an insubstantial debt to him. And that man pled for mercy, and he was ruthless, and he demanded this man be thrown into jail, and he beat him and struck him and blah, blah, blah. And word of this got back to the king, who called this man who owed him the substantial debt before him and said, "Did you really do this?" And the man admitted that he had, and he threw him into jail and paid the other man's debt, and, put the ingrateful person in prison. So what do you do in the end of the world when some of your friends owe you money? I owe some of my family members money. No one owes me money because I don't have any. And if I had money to lend, I would be giving it away. I give away firearms. So, I can't say I have no respect for money. I certainly do. But to me, money is a vehicle to change the world for the better. And the work I'm doing work to change the world for the better for no money. I'm doing this, for free. So I'm doing the Bill and Ted. I'm trying to write the song, that makes the world a better place. Only they're novels and comic books. Because that's my skill. That's my little drummer boy, bit. And if I get to the point that it's worthy enough or it's well known enough to, pull in some money, that'd be great. But I'm not going to adjust. My skills came to fruition at a time where propaganda was what was being purchased. And I declined to sell propaganda for either the right or the left. I'm not selling that. I'll wait until the pendulum swings back, and then I'll have a discography of work that I've done that is not propaganda based. And that's where we're getting to now. There's parts of me that, yes, still identify with politics on some level, but I'm not going to introduce it into my artwork. I'll come out here and say racist shit, but I'm not going to put it in my books, and they don't put it in these either. And even though the very first scene, Lonnie called Curtis the N-word. But at the same time, Curtis didn't, freak out and feel disrespected. It didn't hurt him. It didn't hurt his sense of self-worth. You can call me any kind of names you want, long hair, whatever, None of that is going to affect what I think about myself. I am fucking bulletproof right now, or I wouldn't be out here doing this for you guys. Putting myself at risk to be made fun of. When I was a kid, man, I was thin-skinned. I had to prove because it felt real. You know what I mean? I was physically and athletically incompetent. And it felt personal. Everything's personal if you're a person. The Line from The Fallen, another great, great, great movie. So what do you do to collect on these debts? You don't go looking for these people, but if you find them, make them recruits to your community. Because they know, not because they owe you, but because they recognize you as a generous person. And that's the only thing that's going to matter at the end of the world, is who's generous and who's selfish. That's the only thing that matters now. It's the only thing that matters now. Are you a generous person or a selfish person? And you, in order to be able to write good fiction, you need to be able to be honest with yourself about who you are and who you're writing for. And if you're writing propaganda, know it and own it. If you're writing, Chicken Soup for the Soul, you need to know that too. And you need to be that to put that on paper. You can't put Johnny the Homicidal Maniac is Chicken Soup for the Soul. Just like Machiavelli's The Prince is. It is a Rorschach test for your heart. If your heart is pure, you can indulge in any kind of nonsense and know that it's rapscallion scoundrel bits, you're not a hateful person. I can come out here and say some blacks are idiots and not hate all blacks. I can come out here and say they should enrich Africa and not Sweden or Ireland. So, yeah, today's episode is brought to you by Legacy of the Mad Scientist, The Legend of Ashley Fox. Amazing science fiction, fantasy, audiobooks, ebooks, and novels for you guys. Eventually, maybe comics, but that would be a big lift. I'd have to have a huge budget and an artist willing to dedicate a lot of time to it. I'd much rather have the budget to produce cartoons and use the cartoons to sell t-shirts and video games and plushies and comics. Use the cartoons to sell comics. This is the work of Jason Harold Arcilla. We went to animation school together at the Art Institute of Los Angeles and Santa Monica, right next door to Activision. And neither of us ended up working for them. But check out his amazing work. This is a PDF here in the description. Yeah, I'm here for you guys every day. Alpha Channel Games. Love you. See you tomorrow.